Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties. Hopefully, the tech guy will, make sure that we get everything great, And of course, before we get to our guests, I want to introduce the new president of the NAACP Pittsburgh branch. He wants to just introduce himself to Mr. Mosley before he jumps off. Dalen.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Mosley. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. My name is Dalen Davis. I am the new president of the NAACP Pittsburgh branch. I just wanted to extend my gratitude for you coming to be a part of this civic engagement series. We are happy to hear from you to learn about your vision for District 9 and look forward to talking to you soon. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Spencer. I'm going to let you guys get started and I'm going to hop off.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, again, ladies and gentlemen, we are so sorry for our technical difficulties. But yes, our guest today, we have Khari Mosley. He came to our educational community civic series that we do in here in the city of Pittsburgh, and he has graced us with his presence. And I'm not going to say a whole lot about him. I want to make sure that he can introduce himself. Khari, how are you doing? And thank you for coming.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for bearing with me as we got the tech together.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here. I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. I'm Khari Mosley. I'm the political director at One Hood, and I'm also a candidate for Pittsburgh City Council in District 9. And really excited about this opportunity we have here in the city. I think we're in a very transformational moment.
Yeah.
And I'm stepping up because I feel as this is a once in a century opportunity to really transform this city into a place that we all can be proud of. That's why, I stepped into this space and I'm going on this journey. My guiding principles are compassion, empathy, and grace. And, it's been leading me along this way for the last couple months. And, I just really personally been moved by the amount of support and encouragement and well wishes I've gotten along the way so far.
Oh, good, good. And so that really goes into, my first question to you that we are eager as our audience is listening. We were eager to, tell us, Khari, the moment that because you've been in the political arena, you've been I was reading you were with the green energy, the you were already a political activist, so this isn't something new to you. But tell us
Right.
the day that you said, you know what, and what did that look like? The day that you said, I'm going to run for city council. What did that look like, and how did that come about?
Yeah. So, I've been getting some encouragement from some people, I really respect,
Hmm.
over, the last 6 months, really starting in the summertime, to really consider this. It was something that, at first, I didn't, really, really consider, but it was because I had so much respect for them. It was something that I did, take seriously to a degree and gave it, some thought. But really, brought it home. There was an event at the Letter Carriers Union the Friday after the election, and we had
Hmm.
anticipated, some similar shenanigans to what we saw after the 2020 election, but it didn't materialize. And I was there, and it really kind of dawned on me that we have Mayor Gainey in place. We had just
Hmm.
elected Summer Lee.
Hmm.
We re-elected Lindsey Williams. We elected Chris Deluzio. We elected John Fetterman and Josh Shapiro, and I just felt
Right,
like,
right.
this is such a transformative moment that comes along, once every, 25, 50, 100 years that I thought it really made sense for me to step and embark on this journey at this season in my life. I feel like this is the right season for me. Like you said, I've been in politics for a long time, and a lot of people have asked, why haven't you done this, before? And
Yeah.
I think that, um, you know, you as someone, who's experienced a lot, in your own life, knows that, we go through seasons, and I
Right,
feel like
right.
this is the right season for me. I feel, as far as just, maturity, as far as life experience, as far as wisdom, I feel like I'm old enough to have some maturity and wisdom, and I'm comfortable in my own skin, but at the same time, I feel like I'm still young enough to have the energy, to do the job in a transformative way. And also, my wife has become a judge,
Hmm,
so
hmm.
her schedule, has changed while it's still, rigorous. As a judge, her calendar is a little bit more manageable, and it would allow me to be out in the community more. For the last 14 years, I've been, a very supportive husband,
Right,
spending a lot of
right,
times with the kids, getting them to games, getting them to their activities and things
right.
like that. And now she's, in a position where she can do more of that, which will allow me, so it's also a personal, family situation where, we're in a situation where this would be a lot more conducive for me to be able to do this job, the right way. But, also in my personal walk, in my personal journey, this is the right time, for me to do this, and I told Jasiri one day, we were headed to a meeting, for work. And I was like, I've been in politics for, 25 years. I'm only
Yeah,
46, but I've been doing this since I was 21. And I was like, this hasn't felt like a political experience. This has felt like a spiritual experience as I've gone on this journey. Like the amount of support and encouragement, and well wishes that I'm receiving, as I go on this journey, it's just truly been humbling. And to me, it just keeps reminding me that this is the right season for me to do this.
yeah, yeah. Because you know what, and wow, thank you so much for that answer. Because I mean, I want to go back to like what you said at the very beginning. Like right now, this is a high. Like Pittsburgh, we're in a high. We made, we made history. I mean, we made history, and you were a part of that history. The city was part of that history. And like you said, why stop the momentum of what we need here in our community? And also we have Austin Davis. So the whole thing
Right.
was we made history. And I also wanted to elaborate on, this isn't something that, I wanted to ask that question about, why now, because this isn't something that you just woke up, tomorrow, yesterday, and was like, and I'm gonna run for office. This is something that you have been knee deep, in this political arena. And you were also, as I was reading up on you, you were also a activist in it, whereas teaching, not just going against or pulling away from. You were actually teaching about the arena of the political drama and arena. So I
Right.
want to appreciate you on that. And I'm also happy that I wasn't going to bring up, the your wife giving you, now that you have the space, and because you were the home person for the family for multiple years, and we all know that. But the love that I have for Chelsea, I'm just going to keep moving
Yeah.
on, because I don't want to make it about the love I have for her. So I'm gonna keep moving. And so
That's no
yeah,
problem.
so and so I wanted to, because a lot of people, I was talking to your campaign manager about, exactly what communities encompass District 9. And as, her and I was saying, we will be shocked of some of the people that literally may be in office right now or thinking of running for office, don't even know how many communities or what communities consist of their district. So for the people that don't know what communities consist of District 9, can you educate us on that?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very unique, diverse district, probably the most diverse and unique district, of all the council districts in the city. You have Garfield, you have Staten
Mhm.
Heights, you have a little piece of Friendship, you have East Liberty, you have Homewood, Lincoln Lemington, Larmer, North Point Breeze, a little piece of Regent Square and Park Place and East Hills. And, so you have, a whole range of income levels, demographics, education levels, interests. And I feel like I'm uniquely suited to be able to
Mhm.
move into all these different communities and connect with people. I feel we've already been able to do that. And I feel like that's why, we have so much momentum, moving forward, because, I think my diverse background, working, in the environmental movement, working on issues like infrastructure, but also, being an ally to the LGBT community, doing voting rights work, and also doing other civic engagement work, and understanding, infrastructure and the environment, and also, doing community work and understanding the importance of affordable housing. So, I'm really excited, at the opportunity to potentially be the representative of a district so diverse, where, you could move from Frick Park and Reynolds
Right.
Street over to Frankstown Avenue, to Penn Avenue, to Stanton Avenue. And I'm really just excited about this proposition to be able to represent, such an interesting district.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Because there's a lot of people, as your campaign manager Brandy and I were talking, sometimes people say, District 9 and immediately think Homewood, East Liberty, Garfield. And so I wanted to make sure that the people know and not assume. So thank you so much for that answer. And my next answer was going to be down the line, but now that we're talking about the how diverse your this not District 9 is, can you give us a snippet of, if you had a chance, Kahori, to set a table with the men and women, the men and women, black men and women, white men and women in District 9, to build a unity, a bond of unity, because when you have Squirrel Hill is like right over the bridge, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? And what would that look like? Because for so long, that bond is not, it was there, then it wasn't there, now it's not there. And so what could, what do you see? What vision do you see, or what could happen or should happen to build that bond back of unity in the communities?
Right, right. No, it's interesting you say that. While I've been on the campaign trail, I've been talking a lot about building bridges.
Hmm.
I've been saying that, I'm an advocate, problem solver, and a bridge builder, and I've been talking a lot about building bridges between the communities of District 9, and this has come up actually a lot in conversations. I was with the Point Breeze organization a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about how they want to be allies, with Homewood, and just figuring out ways how we can build bridges between Point
Yeah.
Breeze and Homewood, and not let this busway, become this huge barrier. We all understand, like, the busway has become, this barrier. We talk about the different sides of Penn Avenue. Like, Penn Avenue is like this, like this ocean, that exists
Yeah.
between, Homewood and Point Breeze. And so we've been talking a lot about, doing, inter-community activities, bringing the folks from Point Breeze over into Homewood for activities, and vice versa. Actually, recently sat down with Councilwoman Erica Strasburger, who
Hmm.
represents, parts of Point Breeze and obviously Squirrel Hill and Shady Side,
Hmm.
and talking about, different ideas on how, the two communities can work together, because there's so much overlap, particularly between District 9 and District 8. For example, we were actually having lunch at the galley, at Bakery Square. And
Hmm.
in that building, that part of the building is actually in District 9. But across Penn Avenue, which is connected by the Sky Bridge, between the two parts of the building where Phillips is, that's District 8. So, like, literally, there's we have buildings that exist within the two districts. So, and then you look at, the former Shakespeare Giant Eagle, which is going to be turned into a market district. That's technically District 8, but 95% of the shoppers and the customers that shop at the old Shakespeare Giant Eagle live in District 9.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
clearly there's so much overlap already. I think, which really requires us to, bring folks together. And I think particularly there's one issue that I think really allows us, to do it. And I've already been talking to folks, in Point Breeze about it. And it's an issue I think we're all concerned about, which is affordable housing.
Mm.
Even the folks, in Point Breeze that live in $600,000 homes, who are not directly impacted by housing costs,
Hmm.
have a deep concern about what it means for the city overall, to
Mm.
have the housing prices go up so much that, we're displacing so many people. 2,000 people have got displaced from East Liberty. in recent years. 10,000 African Americans have got displaced from the city
Mm.
since the last census. And so there's folks in Point Breeze that are concerned about it. And I think we have a unique opportunity to bring folks from Squirrel Hill, Point Breeze, and other communities in the East End together as allies, standing with the people in Homewood and Larimer and Lincoln, Leamington, the communities that are next to be most directly impacted by housing costs, the communities where we need to do, rehabilitation of existing housing that can be rehab, where we need to do new housing to
Mm.
infill the areas where there's empty lots and bring new housing in. But we need to do so in a way that we don't repeat what happened in East Liberty.
Yeah.
And I think that's an issue that I think there's a lot, of synergy, and I think they'd be very powerful allies in us standing together, and but also doing fun stuff, doing fun inter-community activities, but also coming together, as the East End to say, we don't want to turn into San Francisco. And it's not a
Yeah.
a knock on San Francisco, but we don't want to be a city where all the houses are $800,000. And working people have to move out of the city, to be able to have, a decent home. So I think that's something I'm really passionate about, and I think, I was talking to Councilwoman Strausberger. That's something that she's really passionate about, and I think there's a unique opportunity to bring those two communities together around a very important issue that will really impact our city in a positive way.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Because you know what? I mean, if anyone, if our audience is listening, I know for me, what I am happy that I heard what you say, Kahori, is that, there's conversation being done. You know what I'm saying? There's conversation being done, which means that everyone wants this. Everyone wants unity. Don't nobody want to be separated because of a bridge or because of a street or because of a certain road or a certain store separates us. And I'm also glad that you brought up the busway, because one of my questions is about transportation in our communities. But I also wanted to point out that when you were talking about, and I hope our audience heard that when you were talking about uh, uh, Squirrel Hill and Point Breeze, you didn't speak of it as separate communities from District 9. You spoke about one community. And that is, even though it's Councilwoman Strasburger's, and even though it's District 9, you spoke of it as one building together. So I really appreciate that. And I hope our listeners caught that, because it really caught my ear when you spoke of that. And so then we could go straight into the transportation, because as you was talking about the busway, right now, Pittsburgh for public trend, there's a lot going on with our transportation right now in the city of Pittsburgh. The lack of in how can change, what can change to better all of our communities, and so Kahori, I want to keep that question. I want to keep it on District 9 for I had read that, when we you were talking about um transportation, and how the can keep getting kicked down, keep getting kicked down the line. So other words, this department is not going to deal with it. Let's kick the can over there. And so what I had read, what you were saying was, how I took it, these are not your words, but how I took it is that you're ready to pick the can up and throw it in the trash. And how can we, you know what I'm saying? How can we, even throw that can away? Give us a little bit about, the how you're looking at the subway and transportation over there in District 9.
Yeah, now I'm glad you said that. I was actually at a meet and greet in Point Breeze, and we're talking about the variety of issues that are really important. And one person asked me, "Well, you talked about the issues that have come up that constituents are concerned about, but what's your pet issue?" And I said, "Well, like transportation. When I was
Mm,
a much younger man, I had an opportunity to be the one of the inaugural Gao Suda Fellows in then City Councilman Bill Peduto's office
yeah.
when he was a first term council person. He started a fellowship program called the Guy Suda Fellowship, named after the famous Native American leader that was around, a couple hundred years ago. And he was a
Mhm.
scout. He was a Seneca, part of the Seneca tribe, and my focus was transportation, because that's the issue that I'm really into urban transportation. When I travel to cities, I like using public transportation, and I've always felt that our city has missed a huge opportunity to make an investment in public transportation, beyond just buses. Obviously, for those who are a little bit older than me, remembers that we were a trolley city, and we were a
Mhm.
city connected by trolleys, that connected the communities all over the greater Pittsburgh area, and then, we tore up the trolley tracks and, and created, the modern bus system. And I did have opportunity out, I'm just, I'm 46. I'm just old enough to remember, riding some of the trolleys and riding the Pat train out to McKeesport when that existed. And I feel like, particularly now in this moment where we have so much synergy in local government, I think this is a great time, with Senator Fetterman and Congresswoman Lee, that we can potentially go to the federal government and get one of those big projects to invest, in light rail, to invest, in rail transportation. I'm not saying that we can get rid of all the bus routes, and we know that that's billions upon billions of dollars, but I think we have a unique opportunity, to really look, at the East Busway, because the East Busway was built to be converted to light rail, what many people don't realize.
Mm.
In the 1970s, when they did a study, to begin, rail development in the city, they actually, the experts from New York City actually told them to build a light rail system from downtown Pittsburgh out to Monroeville. But they actually ended up building the South Hills T line and building the busway, to the east. Now, I know this is, big ticket items that cost a lot of money, that are beyond the scope of a city council person. But I feel like for us
Mhm.
to be a world class city, we need world class public transportation. We need connections to the airport. We need connections to the population centers to provide, alternatives to automobile transportation.
Mhm.
If we're a city where you could only truly get around in an automobile, um, I don't think we're a city that can meet the potential of our greatness. You go to any great city in the world, Paris, London, San Francisco, New York. And, I know some people may say, like, whoa, like, we're just Pittsburgh. But I think that, sometimes we underestimate the greatness of our city. Our
Right.
city has transformed the world, and it's no disrespect to other cities in this country, but we are
Right.
truly one of the great cities in the history of this country. When you're from Pittsburgh, it means something. Pittsburgh has changed the world multiple times. People from Pittsburgh, have changed the world, whether in business, industry, art, culture, across the board. And, and I think that we should be proud of that. And I think we need to be lifting that up, much more often than we do. I think sometimes, you know, um, we sometimes have an inferiority complex
Yeah.
about being
Yeah.
from Pittsburgh, and I think we need to move away from that, because around the country, people don't look at us like that. Because when I
Mhm.
walk in rooms, when I used to work on a national level and travel to New York and San Francisco and these places, when you walk in a room and you tell somebody you're from Pittsburgh, it means something. It's like being
Right.
from
Right.
Philadelphia. It's like being from Boston. It's like being from New York. It's like being from the historical great cities, that made this country. So I think that, we need to take that attitude, as we move forward into this next era, as we, transform, Pittsburgh into the city we want it to be, to meet its true potential. And I think one of those ways to do it is investing, in transportation, public transportation, that are, the variety of income levels, will participate in, will ride, that connects our population centers, that connects people to job opportunities, and connects our major destinations like the airport. Um, so that's something I've always really been passionate about. It's an issue, in my free time, I read about, and I really wish, over the next, 25 years, we could really take a huge investment into really transforming the transportation system, in our city, and create what they call a multimodal model, which doesn't
Mm.
solely rely on automobile traffic.
Wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And so, see, this is why I like doing these civic series, because we always learn a little bit more about our guests. We always learn, people say, well, I think I know you. I think, and then you learn more. Who would have knew your passion, I'm sorry, was transportation? I didn't, when and mind you, I read up on you. I went deep, like, and I didn't, I didn't see that was your passion. I did see that several of the things that you accomplished on the Beduto administration. And so I read on that, but you had already commented on it. But I do want to ask you about what is your, of course you can't, I want to ask your opinion,
Sure.
because our city council president came up with an idea of, hey, maybe let's get some safe places, or some some places where our youth can go to get off the street because of the crime. And the city didn't, some people, the city didn't take it so well, or the mayor chose to, how can they get their heads together? How would you have, if you had the chance to sit down with the council president and maybe Mayor Padu, I'm sorry, Mayor Gainey, and what ideas would you have gave, or how would you have listened and have taken her suggestion and maybe molded it in a different way?
Sure.
Give us some thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Obviously, it's a very pertinent issue. First, I want to say that, I was not in favor, of the idea of the curfew, and creating the
Mm-hmm.
potential of having, really potentially, uh, really not positive, interactions potentially with police and young people. We're in a time where there's a lot of tension. Obviously, we had the horrible, situation in Memphis. That was
Right.
just further another example. And I think, we're at a time where we really need to find ways to build bridges between the community and law enforcement, not create scenarios which could further, that division. And I feel like, that proposal, well, I think was had good intentions,
Right. Right.
had also would have had, unintended consequences, if it was
Mm-hmm.
implemented. But I do agree with the idea of having safe spaces,
Mm-hmm.
for young people. And to answer your question, what I would have, brought to the discussion, this is actually something I've been having discussions with school board members, as well as folks in the nonprofit community, that do youth programming. And for me, I think, I think one way to start is, I'm looking, at how do we create a model where we could look, at least Monday through Friday, and we say, okay, we know at 7 a.m. a lot of these places, the schools open. How can we bring Pittsburgh Public Schools, city government, the
Mm-hmm.
philanthropic community, and nonprofit organizations together, and say how in every single community, and particularly the communities, that have the most challenges right now, how can we create a streamlined series of programming from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. in all these communities? Where we know from 7 to 3 is Pittsburgh Public Schools, or whatever school someone goes to, but uh, the most impacted youth obviously are in the Pittsburgh Public School system. So we know around between 3 and 4 o'clock, the schools are ending. Okay, so then
Mm-hmm.
what is it? The city? Is it a local nonprofit? Who then comes in at the 3:30 slot? From 3:30 to 6:30, who does that programming? Is it a city run program, or is it a hybrid program, or is it um, like I said, an independent nonprofit organization that's a partner that's running that program? And then how do we even bring other partners in, you know, uh, that like the food bank and other organizations, mental health programs, even adult lifelong learning programs. Do we open
Yeah.
up the schools that don't have programming, and have the city maybe staff or nonprofit staff people within the schools to continue that programming until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, particularly for the 15, 16, 17, year old kids, and figure out, transportation and connections, and making sure, young people are fed, that these young people are potentially getting mental health treatment if they need, mental health treatment, or getting health screenings, and or even like workforce development, training, or connected to the ones that are old enough to work, getting connected to, workforce development opportunities, or working, whether it's in retail, or things like that. But I think, we need to take a much more collaborative, comprehensive approach. I
Mm-hmm.
think, for too long, we've been like trapped in our silos,
Mm.
and we haven't, I think, when we look at particularly the issue that that the council president was trying to address is, like I said, is a very important issue, and I applaud, the intentions, of it,
Mm-hmm.
even though I didn't agree, with the potential result that could have come from it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we have to do something, to address the challenges that we're, facing in our neighborhoods. But one of the things that I see is that I think that we're taking too much of a narrow lens to solving the
Mm-hmm.
problem. I don't think it's solely going to be figured out by a law enforcement solution. Obviously, law
Mm-hmm.
enforcement is going to be a stakeholder at the table, but I think there's a variety of stakeholders, from folks that are working in insecurity, to the folks that are working in the mental health space, to the folks that are doing youth athletics, to the folks that from the county health department, from the folks from the community-based organizations in the community, to the grassroots organizations that are doing anti-violence work. I think all these
Right.
stakeholders need to be at the table on a regular basis, not once a year. And I think they need to be resourced. I think we need to hold our foundation community accountable, to bring, I think, folks that would be considered non-traditional folks to the table. I was at
Mm-hmm.
a meeting at the mayor's office, recently talking about this issue, and and the rapper Fed the God was there, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he has a lot of influence with the young people. And I think
Right.
in
Right.
the conversation, they were kind of looking at him solely as, oh, he can be an influencer, he could put up some tweets and some Facebook posts. And I was like, actually, I think these are the people that should be the consultants and the program managers and actually staff people for programs, not just someone to put up a tweet. Because a lot of these people in their late 20s and their 30s and in their 40s, who've been through the system, who had a past, who've transformed their lives in a positive way, they're the ones who have the most influence with these young people, that are straying from the path, so to speak. And I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like there's a certain perspective, um, that is shies away from giving people like that too much responsibility. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, okay for you to do a couple tweets where you could show up at an event, but we may not necessarily put you on the payroll and give you a responsible leadership position, in this organization, or help you create an organization. And I think these people will be the most effective. And if I'm
Right.
elected councilman, I'm going to advocate for having more of these people around the table. These people
Right.
who have done prison time and now are in unions. These people who have done prison time have now started businesses. You know what I mean? These people,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
have done prison time are now part of the faith community.
Mm-hmm.
These are the true influencers of these young people. They will listen to them because they have been out there and they turn their lives around. And these are some of the most passionate people
Yeah.
about keeping these young people off the path that they had to get themselves back from. And I just have so much respect for these folks, and I want them to be at my table, as we figure this out, to move forward. And I think we really have to figure out a way to get the foundation community and other folks that have resources to get the real resources in their hands, not, a $12 hour job. And I'm not knocking
Yeah.
$12
Yeah.
hour jobs, but they need real resources. These people have to me, these people have PhD level knowledge,
Yeah.
when it comes to
Yes.
getting these young people off the streets. They have the equivalent of master's degrees and PhDs, and we need to resource them the same way we resource people with law degrees and PhDs in public policy and other stuff. We need to look at it the same way. And I think that's how we solve, this problem that we're facing right now, or at least put a dent into it, in a way that we can all feel safe on the streets, because we got to feel safe, when we walk the streets. We want our elders, our seniors, and people, of all
Yeah.
walks of life to feel safe, whether they're downtown or, whatever part of the city they're in. Obviously, in my case, it would be, the East End. But we have to think outside the box, and be creative, and also be cooperative, and, and come together in a way that we may have not been willing to in the past, to break down these silos and concede the turf battles and leave that for
Yeah.
another day to really solve these problems.
Wow, thank you so much for that, because I mean, I hope that our audience heard you, because I heard so much passion and also understanding, and also because I want to go back to, like you said, you agreed with the idea of a curfew, and or how can we get, how can we get everyone at the table to be to make a safe a path and a agenda. I appreciate that. I appreciated that you also you involved Khari. It is, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of times, Western Power doing this here on this setting or in a setting outside of this, it's very seldom that I hear that everyone should be at the table, from CARES reach, from the ones out in the communities, with the GVI, risking their lives, all the way down to the grocery store people, And then I also heard you say that the men and women, that has been affected by incarceration, with PhDs in the street, with these men and women, those people, you want our people at the table with you as well. And that's very seldom heard or very seldom seen, unless it is something that is needed. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciated that, and I hope our audience recognize that you're not even in the office, but you already, your vision, because the question was, how do you see it? And your vision was literally, these are the people that need to be at the table. You know what I'm saying? So I greatly appreciate that, Khari. I really do. My next couple more questions. I ain't gonna keep you long. Couple more
No
questions.
problem. No,
One
no
of them
worries.
is.
This is great.
Thank you. So one of them I want to tap on. In Pittsburgh. Let me see. I wrote down some. We have Google, we have Facebook is in Oakland, we have Duolingo, we have the CMU has the Software Engineering Institute, we have Uber in the Strip, we have in District 9. I know there's more than Google, but I'm sorry I don't have that on hand right now. Khari, what do you see, or how do you envision District 9, being able to take advantage of this privilege, and being able to financially take care of themselves, their families, and or communities? How can District 9 get at the table with these institutions that are in our communities or in District 9? How can you get at the table to make sure that the constituents in the community is being involved with these massive privileges?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a variety of things that we could do. One, I truly feel, from a 30,000 foot level, having, these institutions, particularly, in the technology space, I think it provides, at the city level, before we even get to the community, at the city level, provides a great opportunity for us to do some very unique partnerships with them to figure out how do we deliver city services in a much more efficient way using technology. How do we communicate, with our constituents, whether there's, you know, uh, a street repair around the corner, and sending text messages to everybody that lives on that block to make sure that they know when they come outside, the couple streets are going to be blocked off.
Right.
And then that's just a small thing, but around the workforce development and economic development piece, and I think it's a unique opportunity to promote entrepreneurship, particularly among African Americans. I was at the Pittsburgh Exchange breakfast, that was hosted at the shop in Homewood, and it was
Right.
solely around the tech space. And there's a young African American gentleman who actually just bought the shop off of the previous owners. He's a young African American brother named Rafiq, and he's going to be doing tech entrepreneurial training, getting young African Americans from the Homewood community, learning about digital graphic design, audio, video, web development, and also even more technical areas of the new digital economy, and how to get involved in that stuff. There's going to be college internships for African American college students. Um, from CMU, from the University of Pittsburgh, Robert Morris Duquesne. So I think there's a lot, of opportunities, as well as workforce opportunities, to connect these young people, with jobs, for those who want to start businesses, They can learn skills, but then also those who want to move into Google, who move into Uber, Argo
Mhm.
AI, these other high tech, you know, uh, uh, institutions that are part of the Pittsburgh community. I think that it's essential that we make these connections, and like we're talking about building bridges, and I think like from a leadership standpoint, I think it's very important that we kind of lean in to these relationships with folks.
Right,
And
right.
figure out ways how they can get more involved in the community in a whole variety of ways. One thing that I really want to do, as the next council member, is connect these organizations also with the community organizations, to sponsor the youth
Mm,
football teams, to sponsor the youth sports, to sponsor the nonprofit organizations and activities so they can actually truly become a part of the community, and not
yeah,
just a big sign that you see on top of a 10-story building, from a distance in the neighborhood. And I think that type of goodwill, will strengthen those relationships, and then strengthen those bonds so that we can create these pipelines from our high schools into the universities and from the universities to these institutions, and also create pipelines for folks who want to be entrepreneurs and do business,
yeah,
with these companies, and be a part of it that way. I think there's a whole range of opportunities, that we have by having um, these institutions. When I spoke at the exchange breakfast, on Friday, I said, we're in a very unique moment. This is one of the reasons why I got in the race. This is almost like the 1890s meet the 1930s, and what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean by that is like the 1880s was when the technological revolution of the steel industry happened in Pittsburgh and made
Hmm,
Pittsburgh
hmm.
the steel industry capital of the world, and made Pittsburghers some of the richest people to ever walk the earth. In the 1930s, after
Right.
after after 70 years of being a bastion of Republican politics, from the time of Abraham Lincoln's election, in 1932, Pittsburgh turned blue under the leadership of Davy Lawrence, who later became mayor, and Robert L. Vann, who was the
Mm.
publisher of the new well, it wasn't the new Pittsburgh Courier, but it was just the
It was.
Pittsburgh Courier then, and
Mhm.
um, and they used the editorial page of the Courier because the Courier had 12 national editions. It was the New York Times of Black America, and in the other African American cities, they would use he would use his pen as publisher to convince African Americans to move from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, and and Franklin Roosevelt got elected in 1932, and the last Republican mayor lost the re-election in 1933, and there hasn't ever been a Republican mayor in the city of Pittsburgh since. So you take the technological revolution of the steel industry and the democratic revolution of the early 1930s in Pittsburgh, and it brings us here today to the 2020s, where we have both happening at the same time. We have a technological revolution and a generational transfer of power in the political sense, where we're going from a baby boomer World War II generation of leadership to a younger Gen X and a millennial generation of leadership. And I think that provides us a unique opportunity to really move forward with policies that more so reflect the times that we're living in today, to address the challenges in a transformative way, and have a leadership that really reflects truly, what this city looks like and what this city is transforming into.
Yeah, see, and I just want to say thank you so much, Kahari. I mean, I tried to tell our audience earlier, this isn't something new to you. You've been an activist in this political arena decades ago, and so your answer right there, that little bit proved exactly what I was saying. So thank you so much for that. Um, yeah, thank you for that education and them little tips. Them, you know what I'm saying, them wisdom tips. Three more questions.
No
Do,
problem.
do city council, because I want to make sure that everyone knows, that our audience know, that I know, and then when we talk and when we're talking, we know what we're talking about. Do city council have any say so of what goes on in the Allegheny County Jail? And if so, yeah, first, do they have any say so of what happens in the Allegheny County Jail?
I mean, I believe that they should. Obviously, from a jurisdictional standpoint, one could make the technical argument that that is
Right.
under the auspices of the county executive, and the jail oversight board. But I feel as though, it's important, and I've been saying this a lot on the campaign trail. It's important that us as leaders in this time,
Mm-hmm.
in this season, that we go above and beyond the call of duty, and
Mm-hmm.
not reduce ourselves to the technical.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we will get him right back. We're having a little technical difficulties. We will come right back because me for one, I want to hear that answer. We're sorry about that, but as we wait for him to come back, please go to www.westempower.org. Please view our website. Go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Please go to our Instagram channel. We hope that we can get him back. We're going to give him a couple more minutes, but I do promise you that if if we cannot get him back tonight or today, we will definitely bring him back, because we had just a couple more questions for him that I'm eager to hear, and I know that you're eager to hear the answers. So we're going to give him a couple more questions. A couple more seconds. But while we're waiting, is there any questions that you would like for me to ask Khari that maybe I did not ask? We got him back. You back? Give us a couple more seconds. Give us a couple more seconds, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, please put in the chat if there's anything that I may not have touched on and that you may want to know about. Please put in the chat some questions that you may want to ask him. We are back.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sorry again, ladies and gentlemen, for the tech difficulties. So my question, yes. So you were saying, and I was really appreciating that. What you were saying, that the question was, do City Council have say
Right.
so in the Allegheny County Jail? And as you were saying, now is not the time to get comfortable in one square. So please carry on.
Right. Yeah, like I was saying, before that glitch. I don't know what that was, but whatever that glitch was, maybe they, they didn't like, the idea of stepping beyond the call of duty. To say that, yes, there's obviously certain county officials that have a direct role in how the jail runs, but I think, any person with a sense of humanity,
Mm-hmm.
any person with a sense of ethics and morality, and that cares about people,
Yeah.
if you have a platform such as a city council seat, I think it's important to use that platform, to speak up for humane treatment, to speak up for righteousness, to speak up for justice, even if it's quote unquote outside of your lane,
Yeah.
from a jurisdictional standpoint. And obviously, I haven't looked at the numbers, but it is something I've been thinking about, that I know there's a number of District 9 constituents
Yeah.
that are housed in the county jail on a daily basis. People that the District 9 representative would represent, and you have a certain responsibility for those
Wow.
people to make sure that they're treated correctly, while they're in the county jail. So I definitely feel that, there's a role, at least as an advocate, to advocate for not only the residents of District 9 who are being housed in the county jail, but for all of the folks in the county jail.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had conversations recently with jail guards, who confidentially have shared with me, their disgust with how, those who are being housed in the county jail are being treated, and how they're being fed, and the
Yeah.
atrocities that are happening within the county jail. So that is something that I'm going to, speak up about and continue to speak up about, and obviously we said, we weren't going to, make this show about my wonderful wife, but I'm proud of the work that she did when she was the controller as a member of the jail oversight board. And we had a lot of pillow talk, over the last
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
years of hearing about those jail board meetings and the advocacy to her and people like Bethany Hallam, other folks who have been standing up, on behalf of humanity.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
one of the things that we can't lose is the one thing that I've been saying on the campaign trail, is that, you know, um, my campaign is about the power of redemption.
hmm,
It's like I'm not running as a symbol of perfection. I'm running as a symbol of perseverance and overcoming
right,
adversity. I've had my challenges, I've had my stumbles, throughout my life. I've not lived a perfect life. And if I feel as though no
right,
matter
right.
what roads we have traveled as individuals, no matter what road we travel, now that we're at this destination, no matter what that road was, we all have something valuable to contribute. And I feel as though the stumbles from our past cannot prevent us from doing the extraordinary in the present or future.
Yeah,
And I truly believe that. And so we're not throwing anybody away. We don't know that person that's being housed in the county jail right now could be the next tech entrepreneur. You know what I mean?
yes,
Or they could be the next youth football coach that transforms a young person's life in the community. So I think it's important for us to embrace humanity. And again, that's why I'm going on this journey with compassion, empathy, and grace. Um, because I'm here because people had compassion and empathy and grace for me. When I
hmm,
when I was in my darkest moments. When I was
yeah,
going through my personal challenges in life. And people cared about me and helped get me through. And I want to be here to help other people get through and be an inspiration. And be an example. Of how you can have challenges at points in your life and come back from it. And if it's not if it's not fatal, it's not final.
wow.
It's just a moment. It's just a moment in our life that we're going to pick ourselves back up, dust ourselves off, and keep moving. And again, it's about the power of redemption. So, and I say all that to say that I'm definitely going to be an advocate for those who are being housed in the county jail to hopefully inspire them so they can get their lives back on track and become protective members of the society and not over punish them, for whatever mistakes that they have made along the way.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. And I have to, I mean, I have to reiterate of some of the things that you said. I will be remiss if I did not. First and foremost, I do want to say thank you. For people with colorful backgrounds as myself. Not always looking, down on us or belittling our past or where we are now. I also want to comment on you. You keep bringing up my friend Chelsea, so I'm going to say, the wonderful job that she did, and also I want to make sure that our audience heard exactly what I heard, because what I heard is that you immediately said, Kahari, that yes, you don't know the number of, and I'm sorry that I do not have the number of how many constituents is in the Allegheny County Jail from District 9. I should have had that. But also your concern did not stop there. Your concern was about everybody that was in the Allegheny County jails. And that means it does not matter what district that they are in. And we don't hear that a lot. We hear that especially from the leaders of that district is there. This is my district. I'm concerned about district, and don't come over to my district. So I want to say that I really appreciate that you immediately addressed everybody that was in the county jail. I also want to make sure that I speak on the voice of the one individual, that not just myself as the executive director and founder of Western Power, but as of the city, of the voice of the Allegheny County Jail Oversight Board of Bethany Halem. The fight that she goes through, and it seems as by herself, without her constituent, without her co-workers and everything. So I want to make sure that I say to you, thank you for bringing that up, because I want to make sure that our audience knows that what had happened. Was it last week or a week before that she was trying to be censored,
Right.
And so you know what I'm saying. And so I was me as in Western Power was trying to censor to try to understand censored for what for what what sometimes
Right.
we have to you know what I'm saying, sometimes we have to go around the let's look at the big picture of why someone is trying to be silenced, especially when they're trying to help a particular group of people. So Khari, I really respect and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
My two more questions I have is that our and basically you already answered it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was going to talk about the treatment of the LGBTQ plus community in our Allegheny County Jail, but you already answered it. Your concerns of everybody in there. But if there's something else you wanted to add on to the community of the LGBTQ plus community, please add on now.
Yeah, I mean, one, I just want to, say that I'm, truly an ally. I'm someone, that's going to stand, with the LGBT community. For those who don't know, it's impacted me in my personal life.
Mhm.
One of my very close cousins is Dina Stanley, who's been, very much in the lead, of this movement. And and when she has faced some challenges, I stood with her. And being able to have a cousin who's been on the journey that she's been on, has been an education for me. I've known Dina her entire life. Her mom Shelly is my first cousin.
Okay.
Dina's grandma, is my mom's sister. So we go way back. And it's been one heartwarming, to see her go on her journey, and be able to travel the world, and and be a leader. But it's also educated me about how it's important for me, as a cisgender heterosexual male, to be open,
Yeah.
supportive, advocate, who's not afraid, to stand, with the LGBT community, because we know that when I was a young man or when I was a teenager, it wasn't like that. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
um,
Right.
it was a very much different time, and I'm really proud of how far we've come as a society, and even how far I've come as a person. Because I
Yeah.
know growing up, as a kid, homophobia was publicly accepted.
Mm-hmm.
We were basically raised to be homophobic, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
amongst my
Mm-hmm.
friends. We would say all types of stuff, back in the
Yeah.
80s and 90s that, I would, I'm embarrassed,
Right.
about.
Right.
But
Right.
now,
Right.
now we've been educated, now we've had experiences, and now, I'm just a true ally, of the community, and want to make sure that that they're protected, that they're respected, and they can live their full lives, and not feel, the pressure of having to hide, feeling the
Yeah.
pressure of, of people trying to shame them, for being
Yeah.
who they are and loving who they love. And it not only is it, obviously good for them to be able to be free and be who they are, but I think it makes our society freer, and we all benefit, from
Yeah.
when we are all free and can be who we are. It makes our all of our lives richer and more enjoyable, when everybody can really truly be like who they are and express themselves with awesome authenticity. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to continue, to be that advocate and stand with people like my cousin Dina, and the millions more, here and around the world, who continue to fight, for justice, and to be who they are and be them true selves.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I don't know if you heard the news yet, but of course, you met the president, Dalen Davis, the new president of the NAACP Pittsburgh branch. And I don't know if you know, but Dina is the chair of the
Okay.
LGBTQ plus committee. Yes, so she is the chair. She will have her own committee, And so,
Awesome.
so we are definitely moving strides. And I wanted to make sure she probably didn't tell you that because it's like it's all new, and we're going to supposed to be having like an announcement and everything. But I just wanted to let
Awesome.
you know. But yes, she did. She is the chair. And so, yeah, my next question to you is, Khari, tell us why you for city council.
That's a great question. I feel as though, one, again, I feel like this is, the right season for me. I feel as though, my background and my experience, uniquely suits me, to do this job, in a way, that will, not only be effective, but also, will inspire and uplift people.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
really, I want people to believe, that government can work for them again. There's
Mm,
just such a high level of cynicism about government, about public service, that we have in our society right now. And part of it obviously is a result of the Trump era, and all the
yeah, yeah.
misinformation that has gone on. But this not just, from that perspective. I think there's people from all
Mm,
perspectives. I ran into someone at the Kingsley Association the other night. I was at the Lumber Consensus Group meeting, and I introduced myself, as a candidate for office. And he said, "Well, all politicians are liars, crooks, and thieves."
mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, I was like, that doesn't offend me, but I
Yeah,
would like to have a deeper conversation with you why you feel that way, and I can understand why you are so cynical, about government, because for a long time, in a lot of ways, government hasn't always worked for the people. It hasn't
right.
always seemed like it's been on the people's side." And so we ended up having about a half-hour conversation, and at the end of the conversation, he was like, "You know what, young man, I'm for you." And the purpose of my conversation wasn't to get a vote, but the purpose of it is to get people to believe again. And I think,
Mm,
when you say why me, it's because I feel like I can get people to believe again. Not
mm,
necessarily in me, but believe back in the process, because it's not just about me; it's about us. Like, we're going to have to do this together. We're in a new era of leadership that's going to require creativity, courage, and cooperation. And cooperation, I think, is the most important part of it. Me and you, we both come from an era where of the old school kind of
yeah,
city boss politics, where you
right,
rule with the
right.
iron fish, the iron fist, and you do it your way, and everybody follows you because you're the big, strong, tough politician.
Yeah,
We're in a new era, where we need to bring stakeholders together, bring people together, and
yeah,
co-govern as
yeah,
partners with community leaders, with community organizations, with other stakeholders, and bring folks around the table, to me, much in a more of a community organizing model than in a traditional political governing model. And I think that's how, we're going to make a difference. And I think that's what I can do. I feel like I can bring people together. I feel like I've shown that throughout my career. And even, at my announcement, people were talking about how there was people from all parts of the city, all walks
yeah,
of life, all colors, all identities, were represented. And I feel
yeah,
like that's what I can do. I can bring people together. I'm making a commitment to being visible, to being accessible, to being responsive. I had a meeting with a committee man yesterday from the 13th Ward. We met
mm-hmm.
for coffee. And he said, "You know what? I've been a committee man for 30."
We'll get them back. We'll get them back. We don't know what happened, but I want to hear what that. I want to hear what he had to say. Um, Again, if not, but please make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel. All of our conversations with multiple men and women that ran for office. You will be able to, if you have questions about anyone moving forward, please go on our YouTube channel and look at the video. Your question may be answered there. Also, we have a Facebook page, West Power. We have a Instagram page, and we're also on Twitch. And then also let us know: do you want to come on? Do you have something that you want to say? Let me ask some questions, because guess what? We got some questions that only you can answer. So if you would like to come on, please shoot us a inbox. Give us a call at 412-620-3833. I have my tech guy. I have my assistant. Someone will get in touch with you. So if we do not get him back, we're going to give him a couple more minutes. There he goes.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. Actually,
I
you know what? I think I know what it is now. It's because I'm doing it from my phone, and people keep calling me because obviously, it's a really busy time. So
Oh,
anytime I get an incoming call, it cuts off. So hopefully, if anybody's out there watching me, don't call me for another 10 minutes, please. Let me.
yeah. Tell him I only got two more questions. Two more questions. But wait, I want to finish hearing what the gentleman said that you met with the council in
Oh yeah.
13 district.
Yeah. So he said, he was like, I've been a committee man for a long time and I've gotten phone calls. He's like, but this is the first time I ever sat down and had coffee with someone who was seeking my support in the endorsement. And actually, I've been doing it. I've been having
Wow.
coffee with tons of committee people in District 9 because I want to build a relationship. I've been letting people know that I don't, I used to be a ward chair when I was in my 20s, and early 30s. When I lived on the north side, I was a committee man when I moved here to the 14th ward as well. And so I understand the role. And one of the things that I've been trying to get across to the committee is that if we're going to just reduce your role as a committee person to a single vote on a Sunday in March every year, then we're
Yeah.
missing the whole point of what this is about. Because we
Wow.
have to build a partnership well beyond an endorsement vote that happens once a year.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
constituent services to do. We have issue advocacy that we can get involved in. And you could be a partner in the policy making process. I would love to be pushing issues and say I have 30, 40 members of the District 9 Democratic Committee that are standing with me on this issue. Because they're
Yeah.
community leaders. They ran for office to represent the community, not to make a vote once a year on a Sunday over at the IBEW hall. That's not why they ran for committee. So I want to
Exactly.
hold them accountable to be more active leaders, and I want them to hold me
Mhm.
accountable to keeping them engaged in the process beyond phone
Mhm.
calls and meetings in January and February and March of every year just to try to get their endorsement vote.
Listen, Queenie,
Right.
Queenie hears your dogs. She's looking like, where's that coming from?
Yeah,
Where is
yeah,
that?
yeah.
So somebody may have called him. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'm going to ask him one more question and then we're going to be done. We're going to wrap this up. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us. I want to say thank you so much for sticking with us through these technical difficulties. I just want to make sure that he gives you his information of how to get in touch with him. And you may have some questions that I didn't ask, that he can answer, or you may even want to volunteer, or you may even want to give a donation. So I just want to make sure. So before I was just saying, before we jump off, I wanted to just make sure that, how can someone get in touch with you? They may
Sure.
want to volunteer. They may want to donate. They may have questions that we did not discuss. So how can somebody get
Yeah.
in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can go to my website, www.mosley4pgh.com, and that's the word forpgh.com. You can also text Mosley to 412-328-2209. You can also email me at khari@mosley4pgh.com. So there's a whole variety of ways that you can get in touch with us. Looking forward to hearing with folks. I've been having a lot of coffees with community members, committee people, all across the board. So definitely looking forward to engaging people. Like I said, I'm going to be visible, accessible, and responsive. And I think that's what's necessary to get people to believe that government is working for them.
Thank you. And before we go, is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap this up for this evening? When we're done, don't jump off. But is there anything you would like to say before we jump off with our audience?
Sure. The last thing that I'll just say is that, we have an opportunity to be bold, to think big and rise up to meet this moment. We're in a very unique moment, and it's going to be necessary for us to meet this moment by being bold, by thinking big and rising up. So I'm asking you to join me, and together, we can make Pittsburgh a place we can be proud of for generations to come.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. West End Power, we are hosted with the NAACP Pittsburgh branch. Please visit both websites. Thank you for very much for taking the time out to visit with us to hear from Khari Mosley, candidate for Pittsburgh City Council, District 9. Thank you and good night.